Yeah, we do. And here you are. Well, I don't believe it's going to be a real thing. That's okay. That's fine. That's fine. I'm glad you don't believe it.
I still
But
have
now you're full
people.
of shit.
I got like this dude that sends me conspiracy videos, and he like sent me where the fuck? Where's the lie? Oh, I see. Okay.
It's right
Um,
there.
okay, cool. He sent me this video where it was like, to cure yourself of the coronavirus, point a blow dryer at your face. And this is all hype. And I was like, what I want you to do is like go outside and like lick a doorknob and then get sick. And then when you're sick, like blow a blow dry your face and then tell me what happens. That's weird.
No, that's no, sir, you're stupid. And if you get sick, if you should happen to become very ill, you asked for it. Because why would that be the advice you give anyone? Just put a blow dryer in your face. It's gonna be fine. All right, cool. Okay. Okay.
It's bizarre. Also, I feel like I'm not a scientist, but like if it gives you a fever, how would making your face hot? Like,
Better.
I don't know.
Okay, not a doctor.
I love your faces. Okay.
So,
We are live right now. It's happening.
Yay.
And I think it's like 10:58. So maybe we'll give folks a few minutes to trickle in. I'm going to share this video on my page. All my friends can see it. Oh, 2 people. Is the 2 people us?
Probably. That's okay. We love that. We think that's wonderful. That's our favorite. It's fine.
Let me tell you, that typing.
There we go.
For some reason, it's hard to multitask.
Well, because you have to talk to the camera and then click the things.
I know, it's strange. I'm like, where am I in relation to what's happening on my screen? Okay. So yeah, we can start probably at 5 past. We can let folks trickle in on that New Mexico time. And then we'll get started.
Yes. Yes, very much so.
I appreciate New
Baptist
Mexico.
Standard. Yes. Baptist Standard Time. Please know that we are coming. We will be late, but we are in fact coming. Don't worry.
We will be there eventually.
Sure.
Time is a colonial construct.
And it is. So I can't believe this is a thing we have to do.
What?
Deal with this with a pandemic of this proportion.
Yeah, it's weird.
And we at least live in a country who is woefully unprepared. And it's not funny, but you gotta laugh to keep from crying because woefully unprepared.
It's absurd. It's like the richest country on earth. It's like all these resources. Like you went around the world killing people, stealing things to like amass like this empire. And then as soon as a problem hits, you're just like everything falls apart. It's strange.
I don't know. Did you unplug it? Did you kick it over? I don't know. Sometimes you have to hit it. Like what? No, it's not a fucking TV. It's freaking TV. You don't know.
There's no plan. There's no plan, Demetria. They're winging
There
it.
isn't. We're gonna build the plane while we fly it. It's fine. Don't worry. You don't have seatbelts. You might not need them.
Everybody, that seems like such a bad idea. People say that at work all the time, build the plane while we're flying it. And every time they say it, I'm like, why are we doing this?
It's a terrible idea because it's a terrible idea. You shouldn't do that. That's dangerous. That is absolutely, you're setting yourself up for failure. It's
fine. Capitalism does not believe in long-term planning, Demetria. Capitalism believes in making as much money in any particular situation until the planet itself is exhausted. And then you like go to space and do it again. Like that's the plan. That's the only plan there is.
And that's beautiful. It's like space don't want you because right now Earth don't want us either. Earth does not want humans anymore. Earth is real over human beings. Space, I feel like, is going to be less hospitable. So you can try it. I mean, go. It's not going to go well for you.
My personal favorite theory when it comes to the rich people in space is the idea that there's like aliens watching at the planet, like waiting for us to leave. And then like they're just going to destroy all the ships. be like, stay your ass on that mess
No.
right there. Do not bring that over here.
See all that bullshit you, no, you stay over there with that. No, we don't do that here.
If there were aliens, I feel like that's what I would do if I was like another intelligent life form in this universe and I was like privy to what was happening on this planet. I would be like, I hope that y'all can deal with those like light-colored ones. And then when you're done with that, you can join us in like the advanced future. So yes. Please leave that there for now.
They don't know how to act. They don't have no home training, so they can come.
Yeah.
No, they're not invited.
True facts. So we have some folks watching us. Yay. Hi, friends.
Hello, good morning.
We are gonna get started in about 2 minutes with like the official show. Right now we're just like shooting the poop. Because we didn't decide on what the swearing policy is gonna be, so I'm gonna chill out. I'm gonna try.
I'm going to work very hard to not swear. I will make 0 promises. That's the best I can offer.
When I'm agitated, all bets are off. If I get excited, you know.
America deserves to be cussed out. Daily. Should just be there should be an hour, a cuss out this country hour.
60 minutes of hate America. Death to the United States, literally.
Because she's fucking tripping. So, I mean, see, sorry. Oops,
I kind of think the United States is definitely a man. Just kind of seems like it has like intense fuckboy energy.
So I see where you're getting that, but I feel like America's a white woman.
Yes, actually.
She's that white.
Yes. She creates all the problems and then she starts crying.
And plays victim to the circumstances that she created and wants to talk to the manager. No, stupid. Ugh.
Absolutely agree. I see our friends. Monica's telling us 0 promises, little cuss it out. Hi, Hope. Hi, Andrew.
Why, hello.
Chat.
Yay.
We start in 1 minute. Thank y'all for joining us for our very first episode. We're trying this out because we want to talk to our community and we can't go outside. So
no. Thank you all for being in your homes. That is amazing. Stay at your house. If you are safe, stay at your house. We appreciate you so much.
Cool. It's 11:05. Let's do this. Let's see how it goes.
Yay.
Hi, hello. My name is Onya Sanu. The folks watching, most of you probably know me.
I'm Demetria. Hello. Good morning.
Hi, hello. We're members of All African People's Revolutionary Party, New Mexico, which is a revolutionary Pan-African organization, a chapter of a revolutionary Pan-African organization called the All African People's Revolutionary Party, based in Africa, chapters all over the African world. Our political objective is pan-Africanism, which we define as one unified socialist Africa. So we are a revolutionary socialist Pan-African organization. And this is the very first episode of something we want to try to communicate with our community on a weekly basis. We saw like a lot of misinformation flying around, particularly directed at African people about a current situation. We saw like a lot of the news pretending African people don't exist, as usually happens. And we had like ongoing political education projects that we didn't want to like put to the side for however long this lasts. And so this show is an attempt to share accurate news, political education, and updates that our people and our community needs to stay safe and to also be prepared to like come out of the situation ready to fight for our freedom. Anything I missed in that intro?
Nope, you hit all the buttons.
Cool. So yeah, this is the AAPRP Weekly Pan-African News Show. We might have like a cooler name at some point, but that's what we're calling it right now. And we want to acknowledge that we are screening this show in New Mexico and Albuquerque on occupied Tiwa territory. It is still Tiwa territory. It will be Tiwa territory again one day, and we are going to do everything in our power to assist in making sure that the indigenous peoples of this land get their land back as we are fighting to liberate our people and our land. And at the start of every show, we want to like call in our people. Like African culture, African organizing, African politics are very much like ancestor-based, history-based. Like we have like a very strong tradition of like reaching backwards to understand where we need to go and to learn where we need to go. So every show we want to like begin by calling in an ancestor to guide us in our work and in the conversation. And today that ancestor is Ameyo Adadevo. She is an African woman from Nigeria who discovered the patient zero for the Ebola virus when the outbreak first hit a few years ago. The Liberian government, the neo-colonial Liberian government, the person was a citizen of Liberia, was like, sent him back. And she was like, this person has something very serious that appears to be very contagious. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to quarantine them. And it turned out that was the correct thing to do. She saved a lot of lives because they were able to control the spread of the Ebola virus in Nigeria. So Ameyo Adadevo is who we're calling in today. And we are grateful for her example and for her foresight and for her moves to take action that even though a neo-colonial government was trying to convince her not to do it. So that's who we want to honor today, and that's who we will be thinking about today as we talk to you. So what we want to talk about today, so we're going to like break this show up into like discrete sections. First section is always going to be political education, because we believe that like people need to be conscious in order to be prepared to address what's happening to them and what's being done to them in this exploitative system. And so the topic of today's political education portion is capitalism is a death cult. What does that mean, Demetria?
That literally capitalism is going to kill us all. It is not built to sustain people.
That's correct. I really like Demetria because she says what needs to be said in like the amount of words it takes. Like there's no extra shit. She's like, this is how it's gonna be. I already swore. I tried not to. I was really trying my best.
I just don't think we're gonna make it. I just don't think we're gonna make it.
It's unfortunate because we're like the potty mouse in the group. So yeah. It was like kind of doomed from the start. Anyway.
But remember this show, the lineup, the host lineup will change, and there will be other members who will swear less.
Perhaps. Anyway. So yeah, correct. Capitalism is not built for life. Capitalism is built to put profit over everything. Like capitalism's primary objective is to like grow. Even if there's like no life left, they're gonna like sap every single remaining like thing they can to like produce wealth. That is the whole point of capitalism, is endless growth and endless profit. And as we are experiencing right now in this global pandemic of a virus that was like unleashed upon the planet because of destruction of biodiversity, destruction of forests, destruction of lands, that is like destroying the natural habitats of many, many, many forms of life and putting humans like closer and closer to these forms of life. And as humans are encountering these forms of life, they're being exposed to pathogens that we have no immunity to. So these animals, these forms of life have like nowhere to go because like capitalist agriculture destroys where they live, and then they're exposed to us. And then pathogens, viruses that like might be benign and like a friendly creature jump to us and are extremely deadly. And we have no way of fighting them. And that's what's happening right now. It's literally because of capitalism, literally because of capitalism's relationship to the planet. And super important is that because we understand that capitalism did this, that industrial agriculture did this, that destruction of indigenous lands and biodiversity did this, we also have to understand that this is not going to be the last time this happens. Was not the first.
Won't be the last.
If y'all remember swine flu, this is an example. Bird flu, another example. SARS, another example. It's like the pandemics happen, not pandemics, but new viruses, epidemics happen with increasing frequency. And people have been talking, like epidemiologists, like radical epidemiologists have like been trying to scream from the rooftops, like, yo, the specific way that capitalism deals with the planet means that this is like guaranteed to happen. And the system as it's currently constructed, the healthcare system, the economic system, does not have the capacity to address the problem. Like people were warned about this. They saw, like, people were like, this is exactly what's going to happen, what's happening right now. And they just weren't listened to.
It doesn't look like it's going to change.
Nope. So yeah, it's not going to stop. It's not the first time. There will be more pandemics. There will be something worse than COVID-19. And that is like the nature of the system that we are trapped within right now. It is the nature of capitalism to produce crises, to produce catastrophes, and not have a plan to address them. It's kind of like how we knew like 30 years ago that catastrophic climate change was coming. Like climatologists were like, y'all, the earth is warming, the water's gonna rise, like the ice caps are gonna melt, like all these emissions. But they were telling people this 30 years ago and longer. And people like either intentionally suppress that information, people that could act on it, or they just like spun up conspiracy theories to kind of discredit it, which is also happening right now. So yeah.
That is a both, because now and everyone wants to scramble to do things, and then we have this human being who can make laws who wants to undo other things. The earth is going to kick us off.
Or so we could wait for the earth to destroy us, or the other option is that we could destroy the system, and that's the option that the AAPRP believes in. That's why we call ourselves a revolutionary organization, because we accept the reality of the situation. We accept that capitalism does not have a means of addressing its contradictions, of addressing the problems that it causes. Like it's literally just going to try to ride this shit till the wheels fall off, and that means like a lot of people are going to die unless we get it together. So like we understand this is not working. We've understood for a long time it's not working. We believe in socialism as a better alternative. We have models all over the world to look to as examples of what could be done differently. Because it's like the reality situation in the United States is that richest country on earth, but is not millions of people lost their jobs. I read a headline that said 10 million people lost their jobs in the past 2 weeks. 10 million people. And they knew that was going to happen. They knew it was, because as soon as you say like shelter in place, non-essential businesses closed, like people out of work. So they knew that was going to happen, but they did it. There's no plan. Like there's no plan.
Zero plan to protect 10 million people in a 14-day period. 14 days, 10 million. This is not expected to go away anytime soon. So what happens in 14 more days?
Exactly. More people off work. That's the only thing. That's the only thing guaranteed. More people sick, more people off work. And so there's we already know there's like no safety net. They passed that stimulus. That 12, I love the face you're making. Let's talk about the stimulus.
Okay. $1,200 and $500 if you have dependents, an additional $500 if you have dependents. Today is the 2nd, today is April 2nd. So rent was due yesterday. Has anyone received their $1,200?
Nope.
If you are one of the 10 million people who lost their job in the last 14 days, and most Americans live paycheck to paycheck, were you able to pay your rent yesterday? Are you going to be able to pay it tomorrow? No, you're not. And the stimulus isn't a stimulus for people. It's for landlords. Because what else are you going to do with that money? You're going to try and keep yourself in a place to live. Having shelters it's a right. It's not a privilege. But you're going to try and keep your house, right? Mm-hmm. Keep your place. Is $1,200 going to do that? We can speak for Albuquerque. Some people can't. $1,200 is a month or two of rent for some people in this city. But what happens when you need your lights paid, or your gas, or you need groceries, or you have to go to the doctor? Because we also don't have any sort of functioning healthcare system. So what happens if you get sick? Other illnesses have not taken a break. They're not, it's like, COVID came, girl, we'll hang back. People still have other illnesses and other issues, and they will have to pay copays or get prescriptions or get medicine because it's allergy season. We're coming off the end of cold and flu season. Are you going to be able to do that with this $1,200?
Nope. Probably
not. The information, this is such a fluid situation, and the information changes every single day. It was, if you file taxes in 2018 or 2019, that's how we'll figure out how much you get, and we'll just put it in that bank account. So what happens to people who don't file taxes because they're on disability or Social Security, or they're just super low income? Right. What happens to them? What happens to those people? And now it's, oh, well, if you get Social Security, it's okay if you didn't file a tax return. It's just so fluid and it's ever changing. And the fact of the matter is $1,200 one time is absolutely nothing. It is absolutely nothing. It is not, this is a shut up payment. So if we give you this, will you please shut up? Will you just shut up? Will you go? Please. It is not any sort of assistance. If you have to pay childcare because you're an essential worker, you still got to go to work and somebody has to watch your kid. If you have to pay childcare, what is that $1,200 going to do? Even if you get daycare assistance, paying for daycare is almost like paying rent again. Childcare is extremely expensive. What is this $1,700, $2,400 going to do for you, honestly, in the long term? What happens in May? What happens in June?
It's probably going to be longer than June. It's probably going to be at least through the fall. And it's very, very rare to find a public official or someone in a leadership position within the US government being straight up. Like Trump himself was like saying Easter until last week. And that is delusional. It's delusional. So like there's no long-term plan. The $1,200 is a one-term payment. Some cities are passing eviction moratoriums. And in most cases I've seen they're up in about a month. Like the longest is like 90 days. That's still not going to be enough time.
Nope.
Like there's no 10 million people lost their job in the last few weeks, millions more projected to lose their jobs. And like, there's no long-term plan to address if people cannot go to work, how are they supposed to pay their rent on a basic level? If people cannot go to work, how are they supposed to pay their bills? And to your point, if they get sick with something else, not only do they not have healthcare, but also there's not enough beds or ventilators in US hospitals to accommodate people who have the virus, let alone like other medical issues. So like if you get sick or hurt with something else in like the next couple of months, like are you gonna be able to get treatment? It's unclear at this point.
No, and it's ridiculous that no one is willing to like take this head on. You basically, none of you watching, none of us, we can't get sick. We just can't.
Mm-hmm. Basically,
you can't get hurt. You can't get in a car accident. You can't fall. Nothing can happen to you because our healthcare system, the healthcare, not our, let me correct myself. The healthcare system in this country is not equipped to care for anyone anytime soon.
And as we're getting some really great comments in the live, people are pointing out like, so working class, like poor and working class Africa or regular people in the United States are getting the one-time payment of $1,200. And that's not even like the entire working class. Like if you're undocumented, for example, you don't get that shit, even though you're the backbone of the working class in this country, you don't get anything. Nothing. And you also still have to deal with ICE enforcement because ICE is going in to hospitals and like churches with like N95 masks, like still deporting people. So like they're like the working class in this country has like no safety net. But in the same stimulus package where this like bullshit payment was passed, there's trillions of dollars for banks and industries that were already failing because their business models are not sustainable. Trillions of dollars being given to the stock market, trillions of dollars being given to like defense contractors, trillions of dollars being given to airlines, but it's not going to trickle down, and there's no plan for the masses of people, like the regular people who are going to be devastated. Like even if you don't get sick, there's like no one on the planet who can figure out how to like come out of the other side of a situation where they have not have income coming in for like 6 months or longer. And those bills are not stopping. Like you're going to be economically destroyed.
Yeah, it's great. Eviction moratorium. That's super, super awesome. So I cannot pay you for a certain period of time, but then I have this background I'm going to have to deal with right now. Right. So what happens? What happens then?
Exactly.
And yeah, it's our undocumented population. The audacity, undocumented, whatever. They get nothing. Unsheltered people get nothing. So many people in the society are going to get absolutely nothing. But America's the greatest.
Exactly. So this is the situation in the richest country on earth. Millions and millions of people out of work. Millions more will be out of work. No long-term plan to address the needs of the working class, just like a one-time $1,200 payment and extensions upon employment insurance. They're actually like really difficult to qualify for still, even if you can get through the website, because most of these websites are being taken out by thousands of people desperately trying to get income at the same time. So like, these are the things that the US is doing, the richest country on earth is doing. Meanwhile, in other places, in socialist places that we're told are like dictatorships and like really awful to live and so on and so forth, something very, very different is happening. Something extremely different that really reveals how bullshit the United States is. Yeah, exactly. They're living like these countries. So example is Venezuela. Venezuela, if we hear about Venezuela in the news in the United States, we hear the president is a dictator. We hear he's starving his own people. We hear, socialism is bad and destroyed the Venezuelan economy, so on and so forth. What destroyed the Venezuelan economy was actually U.S. sanctions, point blank, period. But also, despite the fact that there are these U.S. sanctions still being imposed on Venezuela that are making it so they cannot buy tests, so they cannot import medical supplies, so they have like a drastically reduced economy and GDP. Despite all these things that the US is doing to attack Venezuela, Venezuela recently announced that they're going to pay their people's rent for 6 months. They already had universal health care. They're telling people they have to shelter in place. And they're like, we understand that if you shelter in place, you can't pay your bills because you can't go to work. So there's not going to be any rent. And we're going to cover utilities too. And you already have free healthcare. In a so-called, dictatorship that we're supposed to be like, look down on them or feel bad for them, they are thriving because their government's like, we got to make sure that our people are okay. What kind of dictatorship is like, let me make sure you have food, healthcare, and housing for free for the duration of a crisis? Like, what the hell kind of dictatorship is that?
So it's almost like they care about their people and that they want them to be okay, because without the people, you don't have a country. Oh my God.
It's very interesting. Like, US is clearly like, we really care about these airlines. We really care about this stock market. We really care about this economy. All you little people, all you like retail workers, bartenders, fast food workers, teachers, students, y'all can go to hell. It's like, we're going to make sure you're good.
Yep.
Another example is Cuba. Cuba is literally saving the world. I can't even imagine what the situation would be like without Cuba right now, because Cuba is sending doctors and medicines all over the planet. Cuba is like marching into quarantine zones, marching into regions where thousands of people have already died with no fear, with doctors who have been like the best trained doctors in the world being provided for free, alongside medicine that is like successfully treating people for free and helping people, including in places that have like united with the US to like oppress Cuba. Cuba is like suffering under the US blockade that also prevents Cuba from importing medicine. This is going to be a recurring theme. Like the only contribution the US is making to the situation is bombs and blockades on the rest of the world and neglect for the people inside of its borders. So yeah, the US blockade on Cuba is preventing Cuba from getting necessary medical supplies to take care of its own population, and also is like crippling Cuba's economy. But despite that, Cuba is sending support to like Italy, to Iran, to China, to Panama, to Nicaragua, to Ghana, all over the world. Cuba is sending doctors. This like tiny little island, this tiny poor country that we're told is a dictatorship, or that we're told where people are suffering, is doing all of this work while the United States does nothing but panic and hold its balls.
Wow. So they have an educated population, and they have the willingness to send their doctors to other places to be of assistance, and they assist their people. I wonder what that's like.
Socialism.
To live in a country that takes care of you. Sounds kind of cool.
That right there is why the AAPRP is socialist, because we understand that capitalism is like it's a death cult. It's like a profit everything system, which is incompatible with like successfully living and the successful living of any like entity on the planet. Meanwhile, socialism is a system that puts the life of like humans and the life of the earth first, and organizes society around that principle that like people and life have to be protected regardless of what the cost is. And in the long run, you put in more investment in taking care of people's basic needs. You put in more investment in making sure they're healthy and educated, and you have a stronger country in the long run, which is why the US blockade on Cuba has failed for 50 years to destroy the Cuban Revolution.
People over profit. That's interesting. It's doable. It's workable.
And of course, there's also like, you know, the example of Vietnam that had a socialist revolution that's now going, you know, has universal medical care. That's like a recurring theme in socialist countries that are demonized in the United States. The United States is like, we can't pay for that, even though we're the richest country on earth. And these poor countries that are constantly attacked by the United States all across the board have universal health care that they're using right now to control the spread of the pandemic that's like spreading out of control in the United States. So, you know, people always tell us that we should be scared of socialism, that capitalism is the best that we can do. It's like the best system we have. It's not perfect. And what COVID-19 is revealing is that all of that is bullshit. That there's money for healthcare, there's money to take care of people's basic needs. If a country with like a tenth of the GDP of the United States is able to pay people's rent for 6 months and is able to provide healthcare for free, then there's absolutely no reason why the United States cannot do that, except for a lack of will to do so.
Only a lack of will to do so, because we spend the most on healthcare and have the least healthy population.
And now in cities around the United States, while African doctors from Cuba are traveling all over the world, while all these countries are like acting in solidarity with each other and supporting each other through this pandemic, meanwhile, you know, cities in the United States are importing refrigerated trucks to stack bodies in. And that is happening in a so-called first world country, in the richest country on earth, because there is no plan to address the needs of working people. The nature of capitalism is to treat the proletariat, like the working class, like poor people, like colonized people, as disposable commodities. And that is what we're living through.
And we've learned real quick who is essential, who's absolutely necessary, and who kind of isn't. But will people remember this when we come out of the other side of this, if we come out of the other side of this?
The deciding factor is going to be what the masses of people do in the United States. The fact of the reality, or the fact of the matter, is that the United States government is very clearly not coming to save us. Even if we could not like see with our own eyes that that's what's happening now, we can also look back at the recent example of Hurricane Katrina and the recent example of Hurricane Maria, that between them cost over 3,000 lives of people who were declared to be citizens of the United States. And in both cases, the United States just was like, you're on your own.
I don't know. Yeah, that, and thinking back to Katrina, it was just how much of a clusterfuck that really was. It was like, we don't know what to do. I mean, you're a city who's really under sea level, but I can't imagine that the levees would fail and that you'd flood. That's just so strange. We don't know what to do. This country constantly sits on its hands. And then when it's not sitting on its hands, it's throwing its hands up in fear. Like, how?
Yeah,
Why?
it just kind of goes back and forth between like panic and like contempt, like blaming people. Like as soon as like the corpses started like floating down the street in New Orleans, the United States was like, why did you leave? Why are you still there? This is clearly your fault that a hurricane came and destroyed the infrastructure we underdeveloped. Like there's no plan except blaming people for what happened to them and panicking. So that's what the United States is offering us. And since we know that that is the situation, we have a responsibility as African people, as working class people, as colonized people, as poor people, to organize to protect each other and to organize and build our consciousness in this period to make sure that when we come out the other side, we are strong enough to like continue a movement to liberate ourselves, because the United States is going to leave us to die, is not coming to save us. So we have to save ourselves. Alrighty, so that was the PE section. I'm just like quickly scanning through the comments. If anyone has any questions for us, anything that we say or anything we're talking about, definitely put those in the comments and we'll address them at the end of each section. Yep, definitely see Andrew is correct. Cuba has a very high population of African people. It's like majority African, quiet as it's kept. And so many of the doctors that are being sent all over the world to help in this pandemic are African people or people of African descent. And when we say African, we're pan-Africanists. So I mean Black folks. I mean anyone of African descent, whether you live in Ghana or St. Louis or New Mexico or Honduras or Haiti or Canada, you're an African person. And when we say African, we are talking about you. But yeah, what else in the comments? What else? Yeah, Cuba sending doctors. Brazil is currently under a fascist dictatorship. The president's name is Bolsonaro. When he took office, he like sent all the Cuban doctors out because he was like, y'all are spreading propaganda, which is like the common, accusation from imperialist countries against Cuba. They're like, you're trying to manipulate people by giving them healthcare. Like, it's strange. Anyway, so Bolsonaro sent them out, and now he's like begging them to come back because Brazil, like many places in Central and South America, has very poor medical infrastructure. Like, that's what capitalism does to third world countries. So yeah.
Nah, we ain't going back.
Give us those comments, keep asking questions, and we will address them as they come up. Next section of the presentation is some updates on the virus itself. As we mentioned earlier, there's like a lot of misinformation flying around the timeline, lots of like downplaying, lots of conspiracy theories, lots of things that are going to make misinformation that's going to make it difficult for people to create or to have like a response to this that's going to keep them safe. And so we want to, in this program, always have a portion where we talk about the facts about coronavirus. So I'm going to share my screen and show y'all a presentation that we put together where we talk about the things that you, our community, African people, need to know about the coronavirus. Can you see my screen, Demetria?
I can.
Great. So this is a presentation that we put together that we have been periodically updating with just like facts about the coronavirus. And we, again, are the All African People's Revolutionary Party, New Mexico chapter. Let me see. Cool. First and foremost, African people are not immune to the coronavirus. And we are saying this because initially when it was first, like it first broke out of China and it was like spreading around the world, there were very, very few recorded cases in Africa. And there were many, many recorded cases in European countries and Asian countries. And so people took that to mean that African people could not get it. That is not the case. Like, as we are seeing with like the first deaths of people in the United States, like almost all of the ones that I've seen featured in the news have been African people of all ages. Like, I saw a sister that was 24 years old, another sister that was like 31, a brother that was like in his 40s. So beyond that, let me see. Super important to understand that our people are not immune. We are able to get this. The first cases are now showing up in Africa. Previously, the only cases were like Europeans that go back and forth. And so people were like, nice. And now, like, you know, there's community spread on the continent. So it's in African people and it's spreading among African people. So very, very important to understand that we can get it too. We are not on any level immune. Take it seriously. And not only are we not immune, we're also at high risk. And we are at high risk because of capitalism and our colonization and our underdevelopment. Meaning that because of medical racism, meaning when you go to the doctor and they're mad racist, if you are an African person, particularly an African woman, I am very sure that you have experienced that, as I have. So like, we already get poor quality treatment because of medical racism. So this is going to be exacerbated during COVID-19. We also are poor and working class across the board. We often have exploitative jobs that do not give us benefits, which means that access to healthcare is not widespread among African people on the continent or in the diaspora under capitalism, unless you are fortunate enough to live in a country with universal healthcare like Cuba. It's unlikely that you have consistent access to healthcare. I know I don't. And that means, like, without health insurance in these capitalist privately owned hospitals, like they're not gonna help you. That's like another high risk factor for African people. Next is that thanks to the trauma that we have endured from colonialism, from capitalism, from underdevelopment, we have like a lot of pre-existing medical conditions that are like, they call them like comorbid with COVID-19, which basically means that it increases the risk that we're gonna get seriously ill or die from it. You hear that? That's my dog scratching herself. I apologize. So like things like high blood pressure, diabetes, asthma from environmental factors, like those are very, very common among African people. Like they're very, very common in my family. And those are all factors that can contribute to getting really ill or dying from COVID-19. So we're not immune and we are at high risk. Important. The other key thing for people to understand is that it is extremely contagious. And that's kind of the reason why we have been told to shelter in place, why all of these cities are shutting down businesses they call non-essential, why so many people are being forced to not work, because it can spread very, very quickly and very easily. And it not only can it be spread through bodily fluids, like, you know, sneezing and coughing like we expect, but it can also survive outside of your body for like a really long time. So like the confirmed number, like the scientifically confirmed number is up to 9 days up to 9 days on surfaces like plastic and metal. But on that, like some of these ships that have had like passengers get it and been like quarantined and docked and then like go on afterwards and like survey it and investigate and see how it spread, they found it 17 days later.
Yes.
So like 9 days is what they're saying, like for sure, we know it can live on plastic and metal for 9 days, but up to 17 days they've seen in the field. So that's intense. And then also it can survive while airborne for 3 hours. So if you have it and you sneeze, it's like in the droplets, like in the air for up to 3 hours. So you could like leave the area and it would still be there chilling for someone else to get it.
Yes. If you sneeze in Target, it's still going to be hanging out long after you're gone.
That's wild. This virus has survival skills and we are not immune to it. And then the other thing that makes it really serious, because it's so contagious, is that you can have and spread COVID-19, the coronavirus, while showing no symptoms. And this is something that caught the whole world off guard. And it's part of the reason why it spread so quickly in South Korea and part of the reason why it spread so quickly in Italy. And they found out like way into it that this is what was happening. But basically, people, particularly like people my age, like young people in their 20s and 30s, can have COVID-19 and spread COVID-19 and not feel sick at all, have no symptoms whatsoever.
And in Italy, they tested, I think it was one of their provinces tested their entire community. And that's how they found out. All of these people had it. And more than half of them did not show any symptoms at all whatsoever. So if they weren't just testing people, they never would have known.
And as Dimitri just pointed out, they only found that because they tested everybody in that town. Meanwhile, in the United States, tests are still extremely difficult to get. Like the most people who suspect they had COVID-19 actually cannot get a test, no matter what Donald Trump says. That man is delusional on many, many levels. But yeah, people, you have to show symptoms in most places in the United States to get a test. And as we just said, you can have COVID-19 and spread it with no symptoms, which means the level of testing necessary to control the spread is not happening in the United States. It's not there yet.
And there was a backlog, if I'm not mistaken, it was like 160,000 tests that hadn't even been fully processed yet. So, I mean, the numbers are high and they should be higher, honestly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The United States is drastically downplaying or undercounting the number of people infected with this virus, in part because they just have no idea, which is not really a good combination for figuring out how to control the spread. Another fact, this is not the flu. So like in the early days, like probably like a month ago when it was like first like spreading from China to the rest of the world, although it's not confirmed that it started in China, that I should be clear about that. Like the United States is like saying it like it's a fact, but it's actually not confirmed. But anyway, so as COVID-19 was like spreading across the world, people were like trying to downplay, like they're comparing the death rate from COVID-19 to the death rate from the flu and being like, more people die from the flu. And so, yeah, it's not the flu. It's not a cold. It's not anything that you have experienced before. It is a novel virus, meaning it is a virus that has not ever been previously observed in human beings before this point. So that means a couple of things. It means there is no vaccine to cure this virus. And there's also very few treatments, especially in the United States, that people are using successfully. And also, the test to even figure out that people have this virus did not exist before this year. So it is something very, very new. It is something that has not been observed in humans before. And it's something that we have no immunity to. And as we already said, it's extremely contagious. That is a deadly combination.
And remember, because it's new and has never been observed before, the information on it is going to change rapidly.
Rapidly. It's constantly in flux. Like you cannot depend on stories that were written like 2 weeks ago about how it works. You have to constantly be reading about it to figure out like what's new, and you have to compare what's happening, what's being said in the United States to what's happening and being observed in other countries to get the full picture, because the United States government is not giving people accurate information.
Nope.
Also, it's extremely deadly, as we said, because there's no immunity to the virus. Vulnerable people in our community are extremely susceptible to getting seriously ill from COVID-19. So initially, what was being told to folks was that if you are an elder or immunocompromised, that you were particularly high risk and that everybody else would just get like a regular cold. That is not the case. As we are seeing in the United States, there are people in their 20s and 30s with no underlying health conditions getting extremely sick from this, and some of them are dying. So clearly the group of vulnerable people is much broader than was initially expressed to us. And the fact that they said, you know, for most people, it's not going to be a big deal, definitely contributed to people not taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like there's like a lot of shaming conversations happening about people like not staying home or like not following the instructions from the state. But we have to understand that like the United States government has given people misinformation from the very beginning, and people are acting based on bad information, and that's not their fault. It's on the United States government.
If they're operating with what they knew. And to the point, it's a 17-year-old kid in LA, if I'm not mistaken, just died from this. Another, a 6-week-old baby in New York, I believe, passed away because there's just no information, and it's not just elders or immunocompromised people. It is people. We've never experienced this before. It's all new. So to try and pigeonhole, oh, it's just these folks are going to be sick and it's going to be everyone else will be okay. And that's just not the case.
Correct. Everybody should consider this like a risk to them. And particularly if you are elder or disabled, or if you have a pre-existing medical condition, like we talked about, like asthma or diabetes or high blood pressure, you should consider this virus deadly to you, and you should be taking appropriate measures, which we'll talk about in a minute, to protect yourself and to protect your loved ones and to protect your community. And then the last thing that we want to share on this slide is that even though there is no vaccine, and even though people are kind of in the dark in terms of treatments that are going to work to help people who have this, we already know that Cuba is using an antiviral medication called interferon alpha 2B to successfully treat people with COVID-19 in China, and now in Italy, and now soon in Panama and Nicaragua, Jamaica, and about 40 countries all over the world. So Cuba has this medicine that is being used to treat people with COVID-19 with success, but the Cuban version of that medicine is not available in the United States because of the illegal US blockade, which is a self-owned on the part of the United States on multiple levels. So what can you do? So the information we gave you is probably like a little bit intense if you didn't already know. It's like this is something that no one living has experienced before in terms of like the scope. And so it's like an intense and new situation, which we understand, but we want to like encourage folks not to panic. Don't panic. We have to get through this together. We're going to get through this together. The only way that like African people and poor and working class people and indigenous people and colonized people are going to get through this situation is if we are organized to fight for each other and protect each other and defend our communities. Yep. So this is what we're always going to be pushing on this show. And this is why we say, like, do not wait for someone to save you, but don't panic. Instead, organize and get ready to survive this. So key things that you can do on a regular basis to like stop the spread and prevent yourself from getting it is to wash your hands frequently. Like we said, the virus can live like outside of your body. It can live on surfaces. If you touch those surfaces, you have it on your hands. If you touch your face when it's on your hands, you give it to yourself. So wash your hands all the time. Wash your hands much more than feels reasonable. Wash your hands, if you're African, until they're ashy and cracked like mine are. Wash your hands. Next, you want to cover your mouth and your nose when you sneeze or cough. Hopefully you're already doing this because coughing on people is rude, but it's extremely important because of asymptomatic spread, because of how contagious this virus is, that you keep your pathogens to yourself, keep your spit and your droplets to yourself by coughing, covering your mouth and your nose when you sneeze or cough. Don't do it into your hand. Instead, do it into your elbow like this, so that you're not carrying like virus droplets on your hands and like touching things. And do that every single time. I just have, like, what I was taught when I was growing up is like, if you are opening your mouth and it's like not to speak or eat, like cover that shit. I don't know if that's weird, but that's what I was taught. Yeah. And then, yeah, avoid touching your face. Because like I said, again, the virus can live on surfaces for up to 9 days and maybe more. And if you touch those surfaces and then touch your mouth or your nose, your eyes, you just gave it to yourself. So wash your hands, cover your mouth, sneeze or cough, and don't touch your face. Don't give it a chance to go from your hands to your mouth, or from your hands to your nose, or from your hands to your eyes. Just don't do it. It's also good for skincare. Because like if you're constantly like, getting the dirt from your face onto your skin, you get like pimples and stuff. But if you're interested for like vanity reasons, there's like a reason not to touch it. Yeah. Next, wear a mask. Wear a mask. Wear a mask when you go outside. The US government is like another one of like the incorrect things that the US government spread, particularly the CDC spread, was that masks were not necessary.
Yes, they are.
Not true. It's not true.
Yes, they are.
If this shit's like airborne and can live in the air for 3 hours, then on what level is wearing a mask not a good idea? And if you look at other countries that are successfully controlling the spread, they're doing so by testing everyone and by wearing masks. Wear a mask. Wear a mask. Do not listen to this government. They are trying to use rhetoric to rationalize the fact that like personal protective equipment that is desperately needed to control the spread of this virus is not available. And so they're trying to say, oh, this is not really necessary to like kind of control the quantity, but it's not true. People need to be wearing masks when they're outside at this point. The government is not telling the truth. They're not being straight up about this.
Even if you don't have access to like a hospital style mask, there are plenty of videos on YouTube to, you know, make your own. There's no-sew videos. If sewing isn't a thing, isn't a skill that you have, there are plenty of no-sew videos where it's like, here's how you fold the bandana and attach rubber bands, hair elastics, anything just to cover your face, your mouth and your nose. So cover your mouth and your nose.
Yep, the Cuban government actually put out one of those videos. It's in Spanish. But basically when it comes to like medical advice, like the Cuban government is an extremely good source. So yeah, because this is like what they do. It's like their wheelhouse is treating medical issues during disasters. Anywho, wear a mask when you're outside. Avoid crowded spaces. So like don't line up to buy a video game. Don't line up to, you know, I don't know, buy snacks. Avoid crowded spaces, and also keep your distance from folks you're not related to when you're outside. So the current recommendations are 6 feet, but as of yesterday, scientists have observed that the virus, the droplets in the virus, can travel as far as 27 feet when people cough or sneeze. So at this point, it kind of seems like 6 feet was like an arbitrary number that they just kind of threw out, and it's not really going to do anything to protect you if the virus can travel for 27 feet. And so the bottom line is that you're going to have to keep your distance from people you're not related to, and you're going to have to minimize how often you are outside. That's like the only way I think that people are going to avoid getting this and avoid spreading it, which means stay home as much as you are able. Stay home. We're saying that understanding that for many people, home is not a safe place because they experience abuse or because they experience unstable housing. Home is not a safe place because they don't have a home. Home is not a safe place because they can't pay their rent and their landlord's a dick. So like we're saying stay home if you have a home that is safe and stable, but we also understand that for a lot of people that's not true. There is no home that is safe and stable. So for those of us who do have access to spaces like that, who do have access to homes, who have a space where we can go and not be outside and still be safe, you need to stay the hell in that space. Yeah. Especially for the people that don't have a space like that. Because the more people who are out and about, the more people who have the potential of spreading it, the less safe those houseless people are, those like the people with unstable housing is. So it's like a matter of solidarity. It's like a matter of the fact that like if you have the privilege to shelter in place at this time, it's what you need to do at this time. Otherwise, you are making it worse for the people who can't shelter in place.
Yep. Stay your ass at your house. If it is possible, stay there. Stay home. It's negligent and unfair for you to not.
Next, so in terms of what you can do is look out for each other. Like we said, the US government ain't shit, raggedy as hell. There is no plan. The only plan is to maximize profits, even if it means many, many, many lives lost. So no one is coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. We have to organize and protect each other and organize and protect and defend our communities. That is the only way we're gonna make it out of this okay. So that means that we have to be mindful, particularly younger folks, particularly these folks who have been spreading it without showing symptoms all over the world. Like we have to be responsible. We have to be mindful of the fact that we could have this virus and show no symptoms and spread it to people. So to take measures to make sure that we don't do that. Because it's possible that you as a young person, you know, might not get seriously ill, although young people are getting seriously ill. But even if you don't, you could easily give it to someone who will get seriously ill and might die. So you have to be extremely mindful of community members that are vulnerable, family members, neighbors, elders who are vulnerable, and take proper precautions to make sure that you do not spread it to them. That means assume that you have the virus at all times, even if you have no symptoms. Wear gloves and a mask when you're working with vulnerable people. Practice physical isolation as much as you're able to do so. Stay in your home, especially if you're doing mutual aid, like stay home as much as possible to minimize your chances of contracting the virus and spreading it asymptomatically. And always make sure you're wearing personal protective equipment. like gloves and a mask when you're working with vulnerable people. So in terms of what we're doing, so we just talked about like what y'all can do, not panic, take, you know, proper hygiene precautions, and also look out for your community. So in terms of what the AAPRP is doing, in addition to those things, we are going to encourage our community to stay in their homes as much as possible, because we believe physical distancing is the correct move in this current situation to avoid spreading the virus. So in order to encourage this, we're going to be hosting all of our events online via Zoom for the foreseeable future. We said next few months on the slide, but realistically speaking, this is not going to be over when the government is saying it's probably going to be through the fall at least. Just keeping it real. And so for as long as the shelter in place is the best move, we're going to have all of our events online so that you can join them from your house or your phone. And you don't even have to wear pants. And we'll post about every single one on our Facebook page, and our Instagram page, and our website. And in terms of other things that we are doing is that we are rolling out community defense programs. This show that you're watching right now is actually one of those programs. And we are also going to be doing some elder support for elders in our community that will be launching soon. We're going to be talking about this on this show in a couple of episodes, so you can get even more information. But you can always stay up to date on what we're doing and also what we believe by following us on social media. We have a really cool Instagram, which you can find AAPRP New Mexico. You can find us on Twitter with the exact same name. And then if you're watching this live, I am sure that you already know where our Facebook page is, but in case you don't, you can search for All African People's Revolutionary Party New Mexico. And then you can also always visit our website at aaprpnewmexico.org to stay up to date. And that concludes this presentation. So on to the next part of the show. If I can get out of this full screen presentation. Cool, all right. Cool beans. All right, so let me look at the live and see if there's any questions. Damn, there's mad comments. We appreciate how active you are. It's nice. Yeah. Makes us feel nice. Viva Cuba, Cuba sending doctors, Cuba's hella African. This is such a great Facebook live. Thank you, Justine. Thank you, Red Nation Comrade. We love y'all. It does take 2 weeks to get results from the tests that are active or being used in the United States, but we have some updates on that front coming up in a minute. Monique is correct. Wear a mask at all times. People can have coronavirus and have no symptoms. We want to contain the virus and stop the spread, which means wear a mask when you go outside. I understand it's like weird to do that. If no one else is wearing a mask, like I am trying to figure out how to get through that stigma, but just get over it and wear a mask.
All of this is weird.
All right, go ahead.
I just said all of this is weird. All of this is unusual. We're just have to deal with it.
Our comrade Hope just asked if other folks will be able to partner with us on the news, and yes. We already talked about having like interviews with like folks who are organizing in Albuquerque to talk about their work and to talk about their beliefs, and so we definitely are planning to do that, and we are definitely going to reach out to the Red Nation and our other comrades to be on the show. So thank you for asking that. That's great. So next part of the program is some international COVID-19 updates. We talked a little bit about how the virus works, and now we want to talk about what's happening in Africa and the African diaspora in terms of the spread and control of COVID-19. As we mentioned at the beginning of the program, we are a revolutionary Pan-African organization. Our political objective is revolutionary Pan-Africanism, which means one unified socialist Africa. We call ourselves Africans because we're acknowledging ourselves as belonging to Africa. We're acknowledging ourselves as like citizens of an African nation that we are fighting to liberate rather than citizens of the United States, which means that we recognize people of African descent all over the world as our people, which means we make it our business to understand and to follow what's happening on the continent in any situation, but especially in situations like this one. So updates from Africa and the African diaspora about COVID-19. First of all, so right now, like the tests that are available in the United States for the COVID-19 virus are extremely painful. They have to like stick a really long thing, Q-tip down your nose. And then once you do it, the results take like a pretty long time to get back. I believe it's like about a week.
Yes.
And then, in Africa, in Senegal specifically, a test is being developed that will give results in only 10 minutes. And that's only going to cost $1, $1, a single dollar. Tests in the United States are anywhere from like $150 to $200. Tests that are being produced in Africa are going to be sold for only the cost it makes to produce them, and that cost is $1. So Africa is making a $1 COVID-19 test that gives results in 10 minutes. And they are specifically making that test for wide distribution throughout the African continent. Africa was colonized. Africa is still colonized. Africa is constantly exploited by imperialism because the exploitation of Africa is the foundation of the global capitalist system. All the resources that are used to make all kinds of goods all over the world are stolen from Africa, are stolen from African people. And so Africa, in terms of like doctors and hospitals per capita for the population, is like very, very low. Most Africans do not have access to healthcare. Most Africans on the continent who are poor or working class do not have access to good medical treatment from good doctors. And that was intentionally done to Africa. It's not because Africa's like uncivilized, it's because Africa has been looted and underdeveloped, and that's why this is happening. So these tests are going to be extremely important to track the spread of COVID-19 and control it on the continent. And these tests are being produced in Africa by Africans, because Africa has everything it needs within the continent to take care of its own needs and to save its own people. It does not need like this charity relationship that exists. It's actually like a looting relationship with like the first world. Like Africa has everything Africa needs to get Africa safe and to get Africa thriving. The issue is that, you know, the United States, Europe, the Western world, the capitalist system constantly exploits Africa and Africans. But yeah, Senegal, Senegal. $1 tests take only 10 minutes and they're going to be distributed all over Africa.
Amazing.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said that's amazing.
It is amazing. From Africa, we get no credit. We do amazing things. It's unclear if those tests are going to be available in the United States, but we will keep y'all updated on the development of those. Next, in terms of updates on the continent, so like obviously shelter in place is like, or like staying in your home, physical isolation is what we're saying is the correct move right now. But also like neocolonial states, capitalist states, authoritarian states are using this situation as like a pretext for more authoritarian measures to repress their own people. Like my family, the boat dropped us off in Honduras and in Haiti, and Honduras has a dictator that was put in power by the United States that is currently murdering the people of Honduras, particularly African people and indigenous people, and has imposed like a full lockdown that is like punishable by death if you break it.
Yes.
So similar things are happening in neocolonial authoritarian states in Africa. An example is Rwanda. Rwanda's president is Paul Kagame. Paul Kagame was like one of the architects of the Rwandan genocide, who had like basically like did the United States' bidding in that situation, and as a reward was given this like position of power within Rwanda. He's also getting like a public relations like makeover, so now people think he's a good leader. But I will fight you about Paul Kagame. Paul Kagame is not a good leader. Paul Kagame is a puppet of the West. And Paul Kagame is using COVID-19 as a pretext to repress people in Rwanda. And so last week, after a quarantine was imposed and put in place by the military and police in Rwanda, 2 folks broke that quarantine and they were shot and killed. So like we said, we think that people should stay in their homes to control the spread as much as possible. We do not support enforcing those quarantines, enforcing folks staying at home with police or military forces, because as our example Rwanda shows, they're going to be used to kill people, to oppress people, and that's not right. You cannot force people to do this. It's not going to work, and we do not support any quarantine, any shelter in place that is enforced by the, not in Africa, not in the United States, not anywhere in the world. We do not support that. Also, in terms of neocolonial states, capitalist states in Africa using this situation, there are lockdowns looming in Zimbabwe and also in Tanzania, also known as South Africa. But a lockdown or a shelter in place is like a very, very different situation in the third world than it is in the first world. People often, particularly in South Africa, in what they call Bantustans, do not have access to basic utilities like running water and electricity. And for an example, as in one Bantustan in South Africa, there are 2,000 dwellings that have to share 3 taps of running water. 3 taps for 3,000 dwellings that hold, families. So if you are being told that you have to shelter in place, if you are being told it's not safe to leave your home, and you don't have access to running water, and they're saying wash your hands to control the spread, what are you supposed to do? How is that supposed to work?
And I think it's important to note that those taps don't always work. So there's very few of them, and they are not always all functional.
And the water that comes out of them is often not drinkable. It's often not clean. So shelter in place in the United States, you get like Netflix. You might not be able to pay your rent, but you know, you get Netflix and snacks. Shelter in place in Africa and in most of the underdeveloped world means you don't have access to water and you don't have access to work as well. So yeah. Another update is that as African nations are navigating how to do these quarantines, how to do these shelters in place, they're having to figure out how to like do that alongside societies that were built, you know, for a lot of social interaction. Like one of the main forms of income that women in Ghana and West Africa have is growing food and then selling it at like open air markets. And so the Ghanaian government is considering like a lockdown, is considering a quarantine that would shut down these markets. And these women are like, I'm the sole provider for my family. If I can't go and sell these things I'm growing and there's no running water and electricity in my house, then how am I supposed to make the money I need to support my household? They need to control the spread. But the fact of the matter is that there is no easy way to do a quarantine in Ghana. There is no easy way to do a quarantine in these areas that depend, whose economies heavily depend on these open air markets and like, you know, people to people contact and like selling food on the street. Like it's just a very complicated situation to figure out how to navigate. And it's happening, it's imposed on Africa because of capitalism, because of colonialism, because of the underdevelopment of the continent. And then additionally, as we mentioned earlier in the show, is that we are now seeing community spread, meaning spread of the virus from person to person without traveling in Africa. And so we saw the first cases of COVID-19 show up in Guinea-Bissau, in Libya, and Mali in the past week. And obviously the situation in Africa is exacerbated thanks to underdeveloped medical infrastructure, thanks to colonialism, thanks to the fact that the colonizers, the looters that came to our home hundreds of years ago did not prioritize building hospitals, but prioritized building infrastructure to steal our wealth. And so there's not enough doctors to go around to treat people as this virus spreads across the continent. And so we will continue to update y'all on how this is developing. And now we move on to the next section of the program, and I will toss it to Demetria.
Oh, is that local news? Can you share your screen with the website for the city? So
yes,
we are in a shelter in place in New Mexico, or a stay-at-home advisory. The things that are still available to you are your grocery stores: Walmart, Target, Smith's, your pharmacies, Home Depot, Lowe's, auto repair shops, things of that nature. You're still going to have trash. Trash is running on the regular basis to pick up garbage. Daycare centers are open. Food, farms are still open. The dairies are still open. Food is available for takeout. You cannot sit anywhere and eat. Work with your neighbors. Start working with your neighbors. Start building your community and taking care of each other so you don't have to call 911 outside of a medical emergency. But, you know, the police aren't taking no days off, so they're still available if you should need them for any reason. Fire is still available. Ambulance, all that good stuff is still out there. Onya Sanvu is sharing her screen right now, and it's the city website, or not the city, the state website, telling you what essential businesses and what things are open and available. The CABQ website for the city it's not the most user-friendly. It's kind of stupid, but it also still has the information you need as far as what's available in the city. Most city offices are in fact closed, and people are telecommuting. They're not working in offices. The bus system has changed drastically. It's on a Saturday schedule, period. There's no art. So if you're riding up or down Central, you're not going to be in the middle of the street with art anymore. Maybe this will be our cue to get rid of it, but that's not going to happen because now they're making lanes so you can't even turn left, even though it's against the law. Anyway, Route 66 bus is running fairly regularly still, about every 20 minutes. But all the other buses are running less because it's on a Saturday schedule. So you're looking at 1 to 2 buses per hour. The ABQ Ride tab on the city website gives you the schedules. As far as when things are running, Sunvan is still running, but it is running on an abbreviated schedule. So you will need to look at the website. If you don't have stable internet, you can call 311. 311 is still open and available to help you plan rides. But remember, if you have to get from one side of the city to the other, it's going to be a chore because a lot of buses don't have Saturday service. So just keep that in mind when you're planning to leave your home. If you have to use public transportation, school is closed, not canceled. That means your campuses, your kids' campuses are closed, but school is not canceled. As far as accessibility, is for the internet, whatnot, the APS website lists all of the internet providers who are offering free or low cost internet to low income families, prioritizing high school seniors first. There's going to be a distribution of Chromebooks so that we can make sure that our seniors are still graduating on time like they're supposed to. PBS Academy is going to be doing, they're going to be broadcasting K-5. They're going to be broadcasting teachable shows in the morning, and that's also going to be available on YouTube. If you don't have cable or an antenna to watch TV, you can watch it on YouTube. Always keep checking the APS website, aps.edu. Don't call your school sites. While some of us will still be popping in and out, email everyone. If your kid takes meds and you need to pick up meds from the nurse, look at the APS website, find your school, email that nurse and say, hey, look, I need to pick up Kevin's medicine. When can we meet to make this exchange? That will be accommodated for you to pick up those meds, but you're not going to school for any reason. School is closed. School is not canceled. Parks are still open. Open space is still open, but you cannot play on the play equipment. So if you go to your kid's school just to be out because kids need to be out, you cannot play on the play equipment at the playground. If you go to a park, you cannot play on that play equipment or use the exercise equipment. I think that covers everything as far as the city goes. Just be careful, be mindful. Remember, all the stores have abbreviated hours, but you should just be staying at home anyway. If you have a safe, stable home, stay in it.
Cool, thanks, Demetria. Last local update is that the governor of New Mexico has directed courts, the New Mexico court system, to not process evictions, making that a de facto eviction moratorium, which is fine. So for an indefinite period of time, your landlord cannot start eviction proceedings against you, which means if you cannot pay, you cannot be evicted for right now. However, eviction moratoriums are not enough. They are not enough. Like, even if they say, you know, if you don't pay rent April, May, June, or however long, you can't get evicted, that rent is still continuing to accrue.
Yep.
So that means that when these moratoriums are up in however long, some places it's 90 days, some places it's 30 days. Here it's like indefinite. The governor has to like rescind the moratorium, but like that rent is still accruing, which means when the moratoriums are up, people are going to owe thousands of dollars that they do not have because they haven't been able to work. Which means it doesn't make any sense to say you can't get evicted, but we're still going to charge you rent that you cannot pay. Because at the end of the 90 days, that landlord's going to start the eviction process and you're still going to be out in the street. Which means that we need not just eviction moratoriums, we need rent freezes. We need a rent freeze in the state of New Mexico, but we need a rent freeze all over the country because the situation is the same everywhere. Demetria made it super clear that like that $1,200 is a landlord stimulus and for most people is only going to cover a month or two of rent, and then they're still in the same situation they're in right now. So it's not enough. This one-time payment's not enough. These moratoriums are not enough. We need a rent freeze. We need for rent to not be charged anymore for the duration of these shelter-in-place orders, for the duration of the period where we're being told to self-isolate, which again is probably going to be at least through the fall. You cannot charge people rent if they cannot work. If they cannot work, they cannot pay rent. It's very straightforward.
It's pretty common sense.
And yet they are just like, these landlords are like, we expect you to still pay, even though we know you're not working. This government is like, you know, figure it out. And the real situation is that there is no way for people to figure this out.
No.
We need to have a rent freeze. We need to stop charging people rent, period. Next section of the show is local organizing to support COVID-19. So we're going to give you an overview of some of the amazing work that's happening in the state of New Mexico. in order to support our community during COVID-19. As we have said multiple times throughout the show, the US government is not coming to save us. If you're African or Indigenous, you already know that. If you are not African or Indigenous, you're gonna realize that very quickly. We have to save ourselves because this place is not gonna save us. It will leave us to die. So people have been posting links in the chat, which I encourage people to go and check out for ways that you can support the organizing that's happening right now. There's a Google form for Navajo and Hopi families to request support. That's not that our comrade from the Red Nation Hope just shared. So I encourage folks to check out that link if you know folks who might need that. There is also the COVID-19 Black Mesa Elder Fund, which is a fundraiser that is raising money to support Navajo families in Black Mesa. So please do that. If you have some extra funds, check that out. There's also a GoFundMe posted for Navajo and Hopi families that is also raising money to support the Navajo Nation and the Hopi Reservation. Underdeveloped areas within the United States that are going to be and are currently being particularly hard hit by this virus, and that are not going to be assisted by the US government that stole their land. And so we have to organize the resources of our communities to support vulnerable people, which includes Indigenous people, which includes African people. I'm going to say it again, no one is coming to save us, we have to save ourselves. Some other things happening in Albuquerque is the Elder Support Program, which we are going to launch soon, and which we're going to have an entire show dedicated to soon, so you can learn all about it. There's also the Albuquerque Mutual Aid Project, which is like a really cool community-run program. Like it's literally like people you probably know who like came together and we're like, we're going to figure out how to get resources to our families and to our community members at this time. So if you are a person who is unable to leave your home because you're particularly vulnerable, but you need support in the form of like groceries or supplies, go to ffol.org/mutual aid, and you will find a form that you can fill out to request support. And I believe there's also links that people can go to donate to support the community members that are doing this great work. That's Albuquerque Mutual Aid. You can go to ffol.org/mutual aid to request support or to contribute support. We also have our comrades at the John Brown Breakfast Club, who usually do a community feed every Saturday morning at the intersection of First and Silver in downtown Albuquerque at 9 a.m. They usually make the food on site, but they are changing up how they do things a little to protect people during the pandemic. And so rather than making the food on site, they're going to prepare it ahead of time and then give it away in care packages to the houseless community. So if you are someone who is food insecure at this time, if you are someone living on the streets who needs a hot meal, or you know someone like that, let them know every Saturday morning at the intersection of First and Silver downtown at 9 a.m. They can get, it's actually like a really good breakfast burrito. Like it's banging. And then our comrades at the Red Nation who have been very active in the chat, and we very much appreciate them, also have a community feed that they do on the last Sunday of the month at their office, the Larry Cassous Freedom Center at 1421 Central Ave Northeast. They have like some different guidelines for how that feed is going to go. I think it's happening outdoors, and they also have posted those guidelines on social media. So we encourage folks to follow the Red Nation on their Facebook page and on their Instagram and Twitter to find out what those guidelines are for how to participate in that feed safely. And let me see if there's anything else in the comments that we can boost right now. Let me see. Oh yeah, also if folks are interested in making donations to the AAPRP to support our upcoming community defense program, we're looking for things like laundry soap, lotion, candles, matches, emergency, like the little packets you take. It tastes like a Tang when you get sick. Crackers, nuts, canned meat, pasta sauce, beans, rice, cornbread mixed water, and small empty bottles. If you have any of those things and you want to support the work that we're going to do for our elders in the community, please send us a message on our Facebook page so we can figure out how to get those from you, and we deeply appreciate it. And this is going to be like a recurring segment of every show where we talk about the organizing that's happening around community defense during the pandemic in Albuquerque. So if you want us to like shout out what you're doing, just let us know. Anything I missed, Demetria?
No, that's everybody that we are aware of.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's other things happening that we don't know, and we will, if we find out about them, we will boost those too, because we support the solidarity efforts to organize in defense of our communities. No one is coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. Next, briefly, we want to talk about upcoming events that AAPRP New Mexico is going to be hosting. So we have a monthly Pan-African film series that we do on the second Saturday of every month at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, and it's not going to stop. We're going to do it. Can't stop, won't stop. But this time, because we don't want to gather people in public, because we don't want to get them sick, we're going to be doing virtually. We're going to do it on Zoom, very similar to this, and people will be able to tune into the live stream. There's a Facebook event that you can find on our Facebook page, All African People's Revolutionary Party New Mexico. And there is a Zoom link that you must register at in order to participate in the film series. So please, if you're interested in attending, register at the link in that Facebook event, find it on our Facebook page. On Saturday, April 11th is the next one, and we're going to be showing Claudine. I don't know if folks have seen Claudine, but it is a classic about a working class single African mother and her trials and tribulations in this racist, patriarchal, capitalist society. It's like it's a really heartwarming and really realistic movie about the conditions of African women in the United States. So that's Saturday, April 2nd, or sorry, Saturday, April 11th at 2 p.m. We're screening Claudine. And if you want to come, if you want to be part of that screening, check out the event on our Facebook page and please register at the link that we gave. And then also, this program is going to continue every single week, same time, same place on our Facebook page, Thursdays at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. Our next episode will be Thursday the 9th, and we're going to be talking about what is community defense. We kept saying community defense on this call. Maybe you're like, what does that mean? Do y'all have guns? So we're going to talk about exactly what that means next Thursday the 9th at 11. So if you're interested, please tune in, tell your friends, spread the word. We want to keep building the audience for this show. Anything else, Demetria?
That's all the events, and I think it's super important that people start getting into things. Get an organization. Just pick one, because we've said, and Onya said multiple times, no one's coming to save us. No one. So it's up to us to reach across to our neighbors, to our community members, and save ourselves. We don't have a choice. There's no other option.
I can also say personally that being in a revolutionary organization, having these comrades and like talking together about the situation and organizing through the situation and figuring out how we're going to move and what we need to do to support each other and support our community is like it's like therapy. It's like when the whole situation, the whole world is falling down around you, you have like this safe space, like the safe circle where you can figure out what your next move is. And I cannot overstate how good that is for your mental health, to not feel helpless and to have people who are in it with you, who are figuring it out together.
Yep.
Join an organization. Alrighty.
No matter where you're at.
No matter, there's no excuse at this point. Everybody's on Zoom. You don't even have to leave your house.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know enough. You'll learn. It's okay. Well, I don't think I'm radical enough. That's okay. That's fine. That's fine. Get somewhere.
Woo-hoo. Cool. So that is it for the show today. As I said, I'm Onya Sanwu.
I'm Demetria.
And we are members of All African People's Revolutionary Party New Mexico and the All African Women's Revolutionary Union, which is the women's wing of the AAPRP. We are revolutionary Pan-African socialists. We belong to a revolutionary Pan-African socialist organization that is fighting to liberate Africa and make it unified and socialist, because we believe that when Africa is free, Africans everywhere will be free. And so that's why we're doing this. We're doing this show to give our community correct information, to give our community political education, and to boost the really great organizing that's happening here in New Mexico, here in Albuquerque, around COVID-19. This will happen every single Thursday at 11 a.m. So we encourage you to keep tuning in. Next week, we're going to be talking about community defense. Please join us next Thursday at 11 a.m.
Yep.
Thank you so much. We will see y'all later. Have a good rest of your day. Wash your hands, stay home, and thank you.
Yeah. Be safe. Take your shoes off when you get inside.
Bye-bye.
Bye.